Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. I'm Advocacy Associate Tatum Owens.
Hi, happy to be here. I'm Progress Texas Digital Associate Haynes Smith.
We're here today to discuss an Abortion Stories project launched by the Bread and Roses Collaborative, Song Confessional, and Boom Lawyered. This collaboration aims to rewrite the narrative on abortion by partnering with local and national abortion funds to collect stories and work with musical artists to turn these stories into songs in the form of compilation album releasing in early 2025. Very exciting, innovative. I'm very happy to be here. As an organization dedicated to progressive messaging, this is at the heart of the Progress Texas mission, and we are honored to invite several advocates and creatives here today to promote their upcoming event, Roe Was The Floor.
Let's welcome to the show AJ Haynes, a reproductive justice worker and a musician, most known as the frontwoman for the Seratones, the Shreveport, Louisiana-based funk soul rock group whose music is rooted in revolution and Black feminism and was featured on the Tiny Desk concert and more. Thank you so much for being here, AJ.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we also have Walker Lukens and Zac Catanzaro on our show. These two are both musicians and co-founders of Song Confessional, a podcasting collaboration with KUTX Radio, where today's top bands and songwriters turn anonymous stories into new original songs. Each episode features the confession that inspires the original song, the song premiere, and an interview with the songwriter. Fun fact, the intro music for our happy hour episodes is from Walker's song called Heard You Bought a House. Hi, Walker and Zac.
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
Thank you for being here today. I'd love for our conversation to start with each of your work as advocates and creatives, starting with AJ and then our friends from Song Confessional. Tell our audience about yourselves, your own projects, and why you're fighting for reproductive rights. AJ.
Absolutely. AJ Haynes here, she, they, your high femme priestess from Louisiana. I like to begin with, I'm a lover, and for me, reproductive justice is a vision of love that came from the genius of Black femmes, Black mothers, Black gender expansive folks. And I'm a singer, songwriter. I lead as a creative, as an artist. I believe that in order to bring forth the world that we want, we have to think creatively, right? We have to think subversively. And so it's really beautiful to be part of this project, merging both my experiences as a patient advocate, and I worked at an abortion clinic for 10 years, was the board chair of the Louisiana Abortion Fund, seeing it through some pretty revolutionary changes. As Roe fell, right? I was the president then. And also merging, my creative self. So here to creative doula, as it were. And to be in the mix and really honored to be in community with such amazing people, and especially Austin. I'm representing, we got Electric Deluxe in the house. We got Austin. Hey, Austin's like a second, third home to me. And so I'm excited to get moving and grooving with y'all.
Thank you, AJ. I lived in Austin for a couple of years. Can attest to that. Love it there and happy to have you there. Song Confessional folks, Zac, Walker, what did y'all want to share about yourselves, your projects, reproductive justice?
Want to go first, Zac? Yeah, you go for it.
Sure, I'll go first. I would say, as myself, I've also been a lifelong creative and follower of the alternative path. I just kind of have always seen myself as a bit of an outsider, identified as a bit of an outsider, and I owe a lot of that to being raised by a first-gen, very strong women's rights movement mother. She passed probably about 7 years ago now, and so for part of this for me is kind of honoring her legacy. She also had two sisters, two strong aunts, so I was just kind of raised by a strong group of women. It's always mattered to me. It's always been a conversation in my life. It's not a new thing. This isn't something that I've just started in the past 5 years. It's always kind of been how I was raised, to be a vocal advocate for women, and as a man in this world to support that in whatever way. And now I'm at the stage in life where my wife and I are talking children, and I live in Texas, and that healthcare is wildly important in that conversation. And the way it's been framed in this state is just kind of, it feels very regressive. And being on something called Progress Texas and believing in the causes that you guys talk about. And I've actually followed the podcast for a long time and the activism for a long time. It just feels right to be a part of this with Walker, one of my favorite people to create with. And I'll let him maybe talk more about the Song Confessional side of things since I went more personal with it. But that's essentially my background and why I'd say this story and this project means so much to me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I also come from a family full of strong women who work in healthcare too. I mean, it's also, I think what has happened as a result of 4 years of Trump being in charge to our Supreme Court and reproductive rights is like felt unimaginable when I was a kid. And then to see it playing out in this state where one day I hope to raise children is like really wild. And just at a point now where, I want to be trying to do whatever possible that I can to, Jesus Christ, turn back the last few years. I mean, as far as, creatively, Zac and I started this project, and I think it was sort of rooted in this idea that any story could be a song, could become a song. It's not just stories that the singer or the people you see on stage think of. That's kind of what the root of Song Confessional is. So for us, we find ourselves in all sorts of different creative, different situations, kind of helping songs come to life, not even as the writers, just facilitators. And when Carrie from Bread and Roses approached us about this project, it just felt like with our skill set of maybe creating an environment for people to tell stories, collecting them, giving them to musicians, we could help facilitate like this record and in whatever ways we need to, can be of service. So that's how we ended up here. And yeah, I mean, the time has never felt more important than to do this now,
Next, let's touch on why we're here. The Abortion Stories Project and Roe Was The Floor. Walker, Zac, Song Confessional is co-leading this initiative with permanent booths in Austin to collect anonymous stories. Tell us more about the project itself. What does that title mean to you?
I mean, well, first off, I want to say we also have a hotline so people could call in and tell stories. They never have to be in person to do anything like this. And I really want to stress that I think that's probably the most appropriate way to give stories if you don't feel comfortable like going to one of our permanent booths or even going to this event. Like we have a number you can call and it will record you telling your own personal experience with this. I mean, I think for us, the event is really just about getting together and seeing each other and seeing what this community looks like who wants to be a part of this little movement we're trying to do. That's really what this event is about. And, Bread and Roses has already collected an incredible amount of abortion funds and advocacy groups all over the country. So this is just the first of many events that they're hoping to throw, which will be at all of them.
I would just add quickly to that, the hotline as well as the confessions that we're collecting in the booths. The thing that I think that Song Confessional really brings to the table is all of those stories are collected anonymous. And so I think the reason that Walker was saying that hotline is such a good one is because then it's fully anonymous. There's no record of who you are. It's just a vocal recording. And so that maybe it aids in a little bit of comfort to share a story. That is a very challenging story for some, that some might feel some hesitance to share. But of course, if you don't feel that hesitance, you're welcome to own that story in any way that you want. But that bit of anonymity that Song Confessional provides, we will be collecting confessions at the event in our trailer. We're hoping that kind of just gives a safe space for people to be able to open up and share what they've experienced.
Absolutely. These are private, personal stories, and that's why it's such a necessary and moving project. We have to bring it into the public, but we want to protect the people that are sharing.
Absolutely.
And to launch this in one of the most restrictive states for abortion access, I think really points to that. So the next question I have for all guests present today is, what do you hope to see change about the narrative on abortion? And what do you want to see develop from other stories being shared? AJ, if you would start.
Absolutely. So I'd like to begin with, in my embodied experience in this world, I don't necessarily believe in safe spaces because I haven't experienced safety in my lifetime, with the exception of in the spaces of intimacy that I can create and that I co-create with people. So what I really love about this project is that it's creating these brave spaces that we can exist together, right? Being known intimately requires risk. And the reward of that risk is that we can honor each other's humanity, right? And ultimately, reproductive justice is a human rights framework. This is all about how we how we continue to thrive as a species, right?
Yeah.
For the species, y'all, can we just keep living, right? And abortion happens to be part of the spectrum of the human experience, right? That everyone is impacted by because everyone is born. That's how you got here, Earthside. And so what I'm hoping to arrive to is, a small, what is a small, I love that you said that, Walker, like our small movement, because I believe that small is all, right? If you can create spaces of intimacy where people can feel brave to honor each other's humanity, isn't that the goal? And that's the beauty of songwriting, is that it creates these encapsulated spaces of sharing, of like not having answers. Actually, we are in a place of world building. We are in a place of revolutions, in a place of making the world that we haven't seen yet, right? And so this is a time for getting stories out of our bodies, sharing them with each other, and making sound, because isn't that part of the human condition, right? It's part of our ancestral technologies, right? Of narrative and sound. And so I think we're already doing it. And the progress is what's exciting to me, the process. And so the event is just, icing on top of the continued, this is like a very multi-layered cake. You know what I mean? Can you tell I love cake?
Yeah, no, I'm hungry and inspired by your
yes.
No, I think to piggyback on what you're saying a little bit, something we encounter a lot in the Song Confessional project is this sentiment of, I can't believe that can be a song too. Like, we get these stories, right? These anonymous stories, and sometimes they're about something that's just so not your typical pop music subject, and it becomes a song. And I think in that there's a little bit of a normalizing, it's a normalizing agent for a certain kind of experience. Like, we got a story a couple of years ago. This woman's partner committed suicide, and the story was, it's 30 minutes. There's a whole account of how this happened. And the song that came out of it was just this transcendent, beautiful, moving piece of art. And I think that's something that can happen when these stories get transformed into this language we all respond to, which is music, and I think that's the potential, or the power of collecting these stories, is turning all these different nuanced aspects of abortion stories and whatever that means into something that we all love, which is music, right? It sort of, I think the hope there is that it makes it all feel more tangible. It's not as tangible for everyone, every person, depending on your age and your background, and music is something that is tangible for people.
That's very well said. I think that music can also be a very cathartic release in a lot of ways. That is something that is a very unique platform for that. I mean, I know as songwriters, I've never met a songwriter that doesn't identify with that cathartic release aspect. It's not everything, but it's a massive piece of why we write songs and why we create, is because we have something that we need to get out. And I think that people that don't write songs, it's a really amazing thing to be able to facilitate that for them and to give them a similar cathartic release through somebody else's creative mind and songwriting. And having the musicians on board that we do have on board, like AJ, like Cam Franklin, people that are not just creatives, but are, empathic humans as well, and that are there for people, are connecting with people, are learning about people constantly. And that's something that I think that Walker and I really have appreciated with this project, is how much we've learned about people over the past several years. And that, they are brave. They're braver than we ever expected. The things that have been shared with us have just been it's a true honor and responsibility to be on the receiving end of that. And I think that, it's a responsibility that we don't take lightly. We do feel very, very honored and privileged to be trusted in that space. And to be able to facilitate that has just been such a beautiful thing. Like Walker mentioned, the one with the woman whose fiance had committed suicide. We had another one of a teenager that is discovering that he is trans, and that process, and where they are in that process of in between, their parents knowing and their friends knowing, and that reveal of self that, as a cis hetero man, I never had to experience. I just was myself. I never had to reveal it. I mentioned earlier, I've always been labeled a weirdo, but I don't know. I've always embraced that. That was good for me, and that is why I'm a creative. That's what's kept me connected to people, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
AJ, I just want to say the brave space. I've never heard the vulnerability of humanity be articulated in that way, and I think that was really beautiful and really moving to me. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, great phrase.
The holiday season approaches, which means it's time to invite you, dear listener, to our holiday parties in Austin and Dallas this December. You know our peerless work doesn't end on November 5th, and funds donated for our holiday parties help us promote our voter navigation website, govotexas.org, which is now translated in Vietnamese, Mandarin Chinese, and Hindi, and to take our fight beyond this election into the next Texas legislative session in 2025 for our abortion and reproductive rights, climate justice, and election and voting rights reforms. Holiday party sponsorships are available now. See the link in the show notes, and we hope to see you this December in Dallas and in Austin.
Roe Was The Floor kicks off this project intended to be a community building and storytelling event that will eventually be turned into a compilation album. This whole project connects music, community, and abortion rights together in a fight for a better future. This one's for AJ. You'll be performing at the start of the project. How do you, as an artist, find that your creative process intertwine with our sense of community and social conditions, particularly with reproductive rights?
Thank you for that question. It's such a juicy question, right? I believe that reproductive justice is a framework for the future, but also I'm impatient and I want it now. I want it now. I want the future here. And I think that it's through this creative process, through developing and deepening our connections with each other, that we create it now. For me, my impatience can actually be a good thing because I want the world to hold me and to care for me now, period, or as my roommate says, pyramid. That's all pyramid. And so, yeah, the way that, I feel like I've been blessed with gifts of sound. And so if I can utilize that to call forth the world that I want to live in now, is such what better way to spend my time? And, I believe that safety is also in proximity to your neighbor, right? Safety is in proximity to who you're around. And so the more that we can cultivate spaces of closeness where people can share, and music is a medium through which that can be achieved, great. And then I feel like I'm doing what I'm put on this planet to do.
And it's in those small, intimate spaces that we can break down false narratives about trans people. I think particularly is where that is close to my heart, because these are our neighbors, these are our family members, are human. And abortion is absolutely a human rights issue. I had to agree with you on that. I think that that's one of the things that I want to see change about the narrative on abortion. Our next and last question for you both, with Walker and then Zac and then AJ. Why does this movement matter? Who is the event targeted towards, and who benefits from it? Where do the proceeds from the event go?
So proceeds from the event go to Buckle Bunnies and Sueños Sin Fronteras, which are two local abortion funds in the Central Texas area. More largely, I think the hope with the project and releasing the music is to fundraise around this. And, truthfully, the title Roe Was The Floor, I think speaks to the history of reproductive rights in this country, and this idea that, one, we achieved them a long time ago. In reality, that was the step. And here we are in 2024 needing to do a ton more work. And that work and that movement needs new faces to be part of it. It's not from the 60s and early 70s. It's us now. And just the language I think about is it's a lot about complicating the narrative and adding nuance to it. And whatever that means, more stories, more songs, more people getting together around this. I think that's what we're hoping to achieve. Besides raising money.
I'd say outside of the money, I think everybody benefits from this. This is a fight that literally every single person in this country benefits from, whether they realize it or not. As far as family planning goes, as far as women's autonomy goes, as far as just people's rights in general goes, this is literally something that is for everybody. The event as well as the project, just that this advocacy in general is something that is really important. And just to give a more effective narrative, I feel like the other side has done a better job of co-opting the narrative and demonizing something so important in such an effective way. That kind of, to echo something Walker said earlier, I never really thought was possible, which is absolutely comes from a place of privilege to not have to think about that for the first 25, 30 years of my life, or 35 years of my life. And now all of a sudden it's just something that's such a glaring thing that, it's the first time we really truly saw our country go backwards. And that's not something I thought was possible. I kind of assumed that progress was always something that just happened incrementally. And the realization that it's a constant fight is very apparent now. So it's a forever fight. It's not a 2024 fight. It's not a 1960 fight. It's going to be the next generation's fight too. I think it's just our job to do as much as we can to make that fight easier for them.
Great. And just piggyback off of that, Zach, this is a future fight. And this is also a future celebration, right? Like, it's through these events and through this community building that we build resilience. And, there's a term called survivance that comes from just indigenous genius. Like Angela Davis says, revolution is not a one-time event. It's constant. It's always in flux. And so, who this is for. I'm also really stoked to have more men in the game. Okay. Because I've been in this, I ain't new to this, I'm true to this. And I've been saying, I was like, we need our men up in here. Give me all these cis men, to have our backs and to roll with it. So for me, this is becoming more and more full circle moment where I'm like, yes, it's through these kinds of events and this process that we can teach each other how to show up for each other, right? So ultimately, this is for the man, okay? It's for the man. Can't have no babies without no man, okay? And this is about culture shift, right? So this is how we shift culture and just make, like I said, ultimately, I'm a lover. So I want to create spaces where I'm able to live in my most loving self. So this is for the mans, the femmes, the thems, and the lovers,
Thank you, AJ. And that does bring us to the end of our show today. I wanted to thank all of you for taking on this project and for your thoughtful responses here today. Do you have any last shout outs? And please tell us how listeners can attend or get involved with Roe Was The Floor, other events for this project.
Well, maybe you guys can put a ticket link in your show notes or something for buying tickets to this, but it's at Radio East. It's on November 7th. It starts at 7 p.m. It's $20.01 to go. And other than that, we're still kind of getting our digital footprint together, but you can go visit Song Confessional on any social media platform or join our mailing list. We'll be letting you know as this unfolds over the next few months.
And you can call that hotline.
It's true.
Call them. Yeah. I'm on the internet. Y'all can put the links in there. Shout out to National Network of Abortion Funds. Indie abortion funds are on the front lines, are the most plugged into their community and the community needs. So, just want to give love to them.
Thank you, AJ Haynes, Walker Lukens, and Zac Catanzaro, and Tatum Owens for holding space for this conversation today. Lastly, I will just shout out a great resource for Texans wanting to learn more about the state of abortion rights in the courts and our legislature and organizations doing the life-saving work to uplift reproductive freedoms. Check out the Progress Texas resource Roevolution page at progresstexas.org/Roevolution for more. We remind you and all your friends and family that abortion is on the ballot in Texas. From the top of the ticket to local races, you can vote for reproductive freedom, and we urge you to take the time to share this podcast and our voter navigation site, govotexas.org.
But all this can't happen without support from folks just like you. Yes, you can make a donation at progresstexas.org and join folks like Seth DeCray, Oswald Straub, and Leslie O'Loughlin. Thanks for joining us, and go vote, Texas. Bye, y'all.
The Progress Texas Happy Hour is a production of Progress Texas, a rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. Find us online at progresstexas.org and on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The podcast is produced by me, Chris Mosier, and our featured music is by Walker Lukens. Please be sure and subscribe to the Progress Texas Happy Hour on the podcast platform of your choice. Take a moment to leave us a review if you've enjoyed the show, and be sure and tell your friends about us. Thanks for listening and for all you do to press progress forward here in the Lone Star State. We'll see you again next week.